Hey, good morning, everybody. I hope everybody's doing well. I hope everybody's taking care of themselves during the COVID-19. I know a lot of places opening back up, and restaurants, malls, some movie theaters, different organizations and restaurants and businesses opening back up. So please continue to be safe, continue to sanitize, continue to wear those masks, practice social distancing. I know it's cliche. I know people are tired of hearing it. People have been cooped up in the house for the whole time this thing's been going on. So please just remember, because it's possible second wave, numbers are still going up. There's still no vaccine. So please just be aware of what you're doing out there and continue to be safe. For those who are new, as always, thank you for tuning in. RBC, Rebuilding Community Trust. This site is dedicated to address police matters, address issues in the community, whether through politics or policy administration. The site is to advocate and advertise for what's going on and pass knowledge. The site is www.rebuildingcommunitytrust.org. Please check out the site. I'm going to make some major updates today. I'm going to add a lot of different things. There's a section that I'm going to create for all businesses. We're supporting different causes to make change. One of my starting a scholarship fund with another individual named is Brian Deaver. And he is, me and him are partnering up to create Change Ministry, to where we're offering scholarships for minorities. We're also selling T-shirts and merchandise. And once we get the full thing up and running, I'm going to post to the page and to advertise the scholarship. And please spread the word, because we're going to revolutionize lives through Color Matters. The name of the organization is Color Matters Makes Change. So we're spreading the love of Christ through what's going on, to not only show that we support Black lives, but we want to, as Christ, we bring all men unto, he says, bring all men unto me, so we can be saved. So the whole concept is pushing agenda forward to have not only show love to everyone, but also to specify for African Americans. And as we go through these difficult times, especially touch me to do it, because I'm dealing with this personally. So please support that. Other businesses, we have restaurants on there, Black-owned businesses. We have, I know the young lady, she has art gallery she's trying to open up. She has a business. And also we have another individual who's doing T-shirts called Do Better. So I'm going to post this link on there as well. So please support, check the stuff out. Please support these businesses, because we're trying to spread a positivity message as a partnership. So please support that. For those who's been rocking with RBC, I always want to say thank you. Please continue to share the information. Please tell people about the videos, the content, because we need to understand our rights. We need to understand our laws. We need to understand the concept of certain things. And please just check out the website. Don't forget, I'm on Spotify, SoundCloud. I'm still working on Patreon. Unfortunately, I'm still working on that. Just continuously having issues with getting the editing and get the stuff opened up. Maybe someone can help me with that. Facebook under Rebuilding Community Trust or Daryl Brooks, and Instagram, and Simple Cash Radio, and Anchor. So and YouTube, of course. So please check out the venues. Please support, share the information, and we'll continue to keep it moving. All right. So real quick today, I'm probably gonna be a little lengthy again, but I want to touch on some highlights. The qualified immunity, what's going on in Congress. We're gonna talk about the HR 7120. We got the Trump police executive order he put out. There's some key points in there that I want to highlight. I'm going to post a link to the page to have people look at, and if you want to check out the information and read up on it for yourself. And we just want to talk about different topics today. All right, so I want to say happy belated Juneteenth. I know it was yesterday. I know a lot of people was out there and enjoying the time. And it's basically, for those who don't know, Juneteenth is our Emancipation Day. It's a freedom day for African Americans to it was basically to pick it back on what President Lincoln's done. It's June 19th, 1865. That was the day that's declared our Freedom Day, our Juneteenth. And it's a positive way to celebrate that we're free, all right, from slavery, and that we can start lives and move towards the goal of normalcy. So Americans. So that was kind of some of the history. But if you want to look into detail, definitely check out your history and look into detail on it. But for those who know, Juneteenth is it's an important day for African Americans as Blacks in general. So those who celebrate with us, please, thank you as always. Celebrate with us. I know Congress is passing to make it a national holiday. I don't know how far the bill's gotten, but it's definitely been passed to make this Juneteenth a national holiday. So for Juneteenth, just remember what it stood for, and positively, we're going to spread a message that we are important. We're just as important as everyone else, especially during this time. Qualified immunity. I want to talk about that for a little bit for officers. So people don't understand that officers, when you're sworn and you have an oath and you're accredited, you have certain qualified immunities to perform your duties. Officers, a lot of these officers seem to get away with a lot because of that fact alone. Especially if it's a justified shooting, and a justified shooting is effective. But when it's done in the context that has been done lately with George Floyd, Rashard Brooks, Philando Castile, Breonna Taylor, we have all these different people that's getting killed in a crossfire or killed unjustifiably. This qualified immunity is not effective, and it actually gives officers a chance to actually walk away with little to no repercussions. So one of the things with qualified immunity people understand is that as you have the power, officer has the power to exercise police discretion. So they can go and make decisions with the authority that they're backed by the city of their jurisdiction or wherever they work for. They have the accreditation to back them. They have the officers and the leadership support to back them. So they trust them to go out there and make the right choice, to handle each call with precision, and something that's obviously not happening. So one of the battles in Congress is basically qualified immunity is to protect government or public officials from lawsuits alleging rights that were violated, constitutional or statutory. So with the search and seizures, with right to bear arms, speedy trial, all these different amendments, these rights are constantly getting violated by African Americans or people in general. In this case, where officers doing the things that they're doing, Rashard Brooks' case, you look at that with Officer Morris, you know what I'm saying, the things that he could have handled it better, you know what I'm saying, the training. One of Trump's executive orders, and I know the HR 7120 is being in the House right now for discussion, is to focus on training. I know the public executive order Trump put out that he signed a few days ago talks about training, funding to look at policies and administrative procedures to help with training of officers, refresher training. That is what's going to, it's one of the biggest things I said before. If you look at the other videos, kind of talked about it, is administrative policies and training. Those are the things that's going to change the department inside out, you know, and hold officers accountable with how they operate and how they do things. All right. Standards of deadly force. That's part of that training, having something standard throughout the whole nation. Right. And each department following the same standard. So it won't be different between different departments. It gives a equal playing field when it comes to citizens getting that fair treatment. You know what I'm saying? If you have one place and you got Minneapolis Police Department enforcing tactics that are, you know, the standard de-escalation or deadly force in one place, but the city of Atlanta has it in a different way. New York has a different way. Dallas Police Department have a different way. You name it. Orlando, Miami, LA, you know, police departments all over the thing has a different way. Then it's not going to balance out. You're going to have all these incidents. But if it's one standard of use of deadly force continuum, and also de-escalation procedures, if it's standard throughout law enforcement, not only would it hold officers accountable, but also it would keep a network of officers and even leadership to connect with different departments to make sure that he can maybe make it better, more efficient, and also be able to hold officers around the jurisdiction accountable. So it needs a national jurisdiction, national whole United States of America police departments to have a standard of deadly force. One of the things that Congress is debating is the qualified immunity. You know what I'm saying? And whether to take it away or to keep it. And it's a big struggle between the two because, as I said before, and I said it in my previous videos, you have to be careful how we approach this defunding the police, how we approach policy and procedure change, and something that's qualified immunity, it needs to be revised. You know what I'm saying? Because obviously officers are getting away. They need to be held accountable. You know, I don't know what this is being discussed as far as the details of what they're going to do. Didn't say much for my research, but it's something that's on the table. Are they going to get rid of qualified immunity and leave officers to get lawsuits, civil or criminal, you know what I'm saying, charges? You look at Garrett Morris, felony murder, and 12 other charges. You think about the context of the charges that these officers receive when held accountable, like I said before, it's going to start changing the mindsets of officers and how they perform, right? And they're going to change how they do business. So qualified immunity is an important part of this process of change and reform to see if, okay, how, can we make officers have deterrence of doing things such as what happened to George Floyd, right? So that's the discussion. Part of the public executive order I pulled up here, it talks about how training from other departments, Health and Human Services, you got DFACS, Department of Children's Services. We talk about the federal, state, and local levels. Trump's orders looking into training, getting individuals and liaisons to train police officers on how to deal with homelessness, how to deal with social, we have social workers training officers on how to deal with juveniles, how to deal with certain topics, because every officer doesn't know. Police, we're only trained, police officers only train on certain matters. So when it steps into dealing with certain things, that's something that's been looked at, how wide the scope is law enforcement being stretched. If they're just doing law enforcement only, maybe it might be easier if they're either trained in certain things or they have other liaisons on their behalf to cooperate and help with certain calls that require they're out of the scope of law enforcement. If law enforcement is taking on homelessness and veterans, are you taking on the DFACS cases where it's come to child abuse? Are you taking on looking at mental health and mental health professionals on dealing with those with PTSD? A lot of officers we're not trained in that. So you have professionals to either conduct training or have a liaison to deal with those type of cases, so it won't overstretch officers and it put pressure on them to react to a certain way. Because you're dealing with someone with PTSD, they're not going to always understand commands. They be more violent, aggressive, and then you quick to pull your weapon. What is it? What if it did you have some training that may help you de-escalate? So these are some of the things that the public, the EOs and this HR 7120 is looking at. It's looking at deadly force continuums, looking at refresher and continuing education, and it's looking at how to redefine police roles and other law enforcement, such as these things I talked about, and topics and situations they're not trained for. So this is part of the process. Leadership has to get into the chiefs and the captains. These policies have to be looked at. Every department needs to pull their policies and look at it. Look at how can we better training. Look at how the new recruits, are we screening backgrounds? We're looking at things? It was a case where police chief, I think it was Dallas, I was listening to one of the Congress briefings, and he said it's called gypsy cops, where cops, they get fired from one department based off of a bad citation. They get fired, and then the other department picks them up. You're taking a bad apple and you're moving it to another department. So that's another part of HR. That's another part of the background. That's an administration procedure. They need to look at, okay, these guys, they're coming in, screening these officers thoroughly, more thoroughly than they should, and making sure if you were fired before, why you was fired, and whether it was something related to where it was a departmental issue, whether you OCS or internal affairs issue, and you look at that and you don't hire them. If you got fired for killing somebody or justified shooting, or you got fired for a crime, or you on the job, you don't need to be picked up. Not because don't look at the experience that he's been in this specialized unit, he did this and did that. Look at the reason why he was fired. So that's part of the process. So it's so much into it to where reform needs to be broken down that we got to take the time to look at policies. New Era Public Safety Initiative. That was interesting to hear, to build community trust. So now they're looking at lawful police practices, sustainable mechanisms and accountability to restore confidence and community trust with the police department. So finding ways to get more communities involved. Again, look at citizen review boards. We talked about citizen review boards. That is so it's a very critical part of law enforcement. Getting the community involved, having a panel on the board, those who's a prior law enforcement or those who experience police administration, those who understand policy and procedures, any type of experience, those citizen review boards need to be there to police the police and keep them in line, as far as not keep them in line, but just, hey, this is something we can look at. Hey, this is something that we can change or we can tweak to make sure that we're safe and we're doing things efficiently. And I know what people saying, and people don't, feel like police are being stripped of their powers. I agree, there's good officers, and what's happening in Atlanta, I'm sure people know by now, but they're walking off the job. They're not answering calls. I saw a post where a young lady, she works for the Department of Children's Services, and she's seeing some of the casework that she deals with, and her reaction was basically, when officers do that, they're affecting the community. There are people that don't know how to protect themselves. There are people that need the police. You cannot just take the police away, right? And when officers are discouraged, morale's low. The Chief Shields left, right, for Atlanta, and then you have officers that I know that walking off the job. They're not answering calls. They're just letting stuff slide. Crime is going to continue to rise. It's going to give criminals, okay, well, if police ain't going to do nothing, then I can go and do this. Police ain't going to do nothing, I can do that. The system, the drive has to continue, because it's not about what's going on. And I understand, because it's tough, because you got the officer, Garrett Morris, going to jail for felony murder and 12 other charges. And it's some people think it's too extreme. Or is it it's a political stunt to show, hey, you're going to be held accountable. You're going to go to jail for this crime. And again, with that shooting with Rashard Brooks, that was, to me, it could have been done better. A lot, like I said, we talked about it before. I talked in my video before, where officers get into these fights, right? And sometimes you get knocked down. You have two officers and you get knocked down, and that pride kicks in, that ego kicks in, and you feel like you want to shoot your weapon. But again, I told people how I would do it. It was a police chief that, that said he would do it. Call your code, you go in there, and I'll be on foot. Gun, it can be drawn, but I would never fire. We get the help call, we get the other officers involved. He could have been caught. It could have been done better. He could have still been alive today. Lawful but awful. That's what it was called. It could have been done. Everything that's permissible isn't beneficial. You don't have to pull your gun every time you get knocked down. He has your taser. If he's threatening with a deadly weapon, that's a different story. You have to, and it's a gray area. It's a gray area, and the people don't understand. But that case is a worst case scenario, and he's getting charged, and it's extreme. So what officers are seeing that is morale low, and it's going to cause them to quit. A lot of officers resigning, Minneapolis resigning, all across the country resigning. That's the plan, to give criminals a chance to take over. So this approach to reforming police, although I'm with it and it needs to happen, it has to be done carefully, because if you take funding and they can't supply the equipment needed, it's going to show. It's going to be crime. It's going to be stuff going up. And then, like I said before, the military ain't trained to handle that. You call in the National Guard, not trained for that. It's going to be some seriousness. It's going to be taken over. So we need to be careful. Congress and Senate needs to be careful on how they approach reforming the police departments. Training, my opinion, continuous training, screening applicants. If leadership is a big thing with the leadership, it's going to take really the leadership to really crack down on how things are done. Administrative policy changes within the department, training, and accountability with the leadership. That's what's going to make the changes. If you have a strong chief of police, strong leadership, there's no tolerance for any of that type of stuff. You get out there and you do something justified, it is what it is. You got to go through the procedures. You got to go through the investigation. If you go out there and out there and do a George Floyd, or you go out there and you serve a no-knock warrant and it's wrong, you need to be held accountable. And it starts from the leadership. It starts from within. That's what's going to crack down. You can't be holding on to officers because they're good at what they do. If they jacked up and they're out there doing stuff unlawfully and not by policies of administrative policies and procedures that have been set before them in training, sworn into an oath, you need to be held accountable, period. That's what I think should happen as far as my opinions with the change. Everything else that Congress is doing is just going to be another blanket to hold the department accountable, hold the city council accountable, have the mayor crack down on the police chief, because all that's a chain of command. That's all Congress is, just adding blankets, getting that funding. If you don't qualify for that funding, you don't get the funding. If you're not meeting those wickets, and you're not doing the checklist of the training, you're not looking at the tactics being trained, and you're not making sure these officers are qualified, then you don't get the funding. That's how it needs to be. Then the defunding the police and taking away their police powers is not going to be effective. I agree with that. It was a pastor in Cleveland. He spoke about the results of them defunding and starting to pull funding from police and cutting down officers. Crime is going up. You have gangsters, you have mobs, you have domestic violence, you have so many realms of influence with crime. You have different organizations and crime units that are going to capitalize off the lack of police. Police don't have the tools, they don't have the manpower, they don't have the tools needed to solve cases. It's going to be it's going to actually damage. It's going to be counteractive. So approach to how we defund and move money around, all that stuff. It needs to be looked at carefully. So that's my take on this whole thing. All the officers, I just want to say, stay encouraged. Those who are sticking through the morale, please stay encouraged, because people need you. At the end of the day, those good officers, because we all know there are good officers out here. I believe they're good officers, and there's just a few of these bad apples are being exposed. But the community needs you, so you cannot just give up on doing the right thing. You can't give up on making sure people are good and doing your job, because it's going to affect the community. End of the day, who hurts at the end of the day? The community does. Community hurts when the police stop doing their jobs. All right. So real quick, we was talking about different businesses and supporting businesses. So real quick, IULs is called index strategies. All right. And this being used, a lot of the corporations, big businesses use life insurance term policies to invest in. And so, for example, when you open an IUL, it's a life term insurance policy. It's also cash value. And also you can it's a tax deferred. You pay taxes up front, and you can pull the money out and borrow against yourself. So if I invest $200 a month in the IUL index strategy, term policy, in 10 years, if I continue to pay my premiums and dump money into this IUL, it's not like the 401k where it's taxed. When you pull out taxes 2% if you need to pull the money out or roll it over, or it's a tax penalty when you have it. IULs is no tax. So if I invest $200 a month or whatever I can afford, any money goes into it, right? Then next 10 years, I can have a $60,000, possibly $50,000, depending on the policy you pick, cash value. I can take that money and borrow against myself to open a business with no tax. So you got to think about how we can expand business. A lot of African Americans, we fall short in social economics and how to able to take money and use it for the benefit and the growth for our communities. One of the things I'm learning and one of the things I'm going to implement is how to make my money work for me to where I can grow and capitalize on using the IUL strategies to build a business. You take $50K, you invest into a house, flip real estate. You take $50K and you use it to build a business or get a brand started. This is what it's about. This is how money is being used effectively for African Americans. So IULs is the way to go. I know a lot of people don't want to deal with life insurance policies. I know it seems like you're selling, but if you really do the research, I took a year and a half and did the research and looked into IULs and looked at the difference between a Roth and a 401k. And you learn about money and social economics and economics. People really should start thinking about IULs. Not only will you set your family up for success, so if something happens to you, but you have an opportunity to build a capital and use it and borrow against it and take it to open something, a business, or use it for whatever reasons that are positive to expand your brand, to have money and, build your own family bank. All this stuff is beneficial that is not taught. So I just want to say, if anybody want to know more, if anybody wants to get involved with that, let me know. Leave a comment below. Email. My email's on my webpage. If you want to email me on the side. But just think about IULs. That's another way for businesses, especially Black businesses or small businesses, can survive if you know how to use it right and plan ahead. Because it's a long-term investment. It's not a short-term. So if you have a 10-year policy or a 15-year policy and you invest a certain amount of money into it a month, and you building that paying on taxes and you building up that cash value, that long-term care cash value, by time you get, you want to open a business even for your children, you have 60K, 100K of cash value you can borrow against to invest into a business, and that's your loan. You don't even need to use a bank for it. You just borrow against your policy. You make your money for your business and you pay that money back, and you can double up and use the IULs to build up even more revenue to open multiple businesses or open multiple IULs, so you can be sitting at $1 million when you're 65. It don't matter when you start. If you're younger, the better. But if you start at 35, 40, you can start planning. Sometime you're 50, you want to take out a policy for a business, or you want to open up a firm or a hair salon or whatever business you want. You can have the money capital there. You don't have to go take out a loan. You don't do none of that. You just pull it out from the IUL. So if you're interested in that, let's again hit me up about it. I would gladly explain it to you and talk to you about it. But there's some of the things that we need to talk about. You know what I'm saying? Education. You know, one of the things I'm learning about, you know, we can get on Black Lives Matter. We can talk about, you know, saying BLM and all that stuff. But what are we doing as a people? And I said this before. I think I said it in my older videos. What are we doing as a people to make changes? Reading a book, going to school, getting with knowledge is so critical. You know, yes, it's unjustified that this stuff is happening to us the way it is. But it was from the beginning of slavery where we were incapacitated mentally and educationally to not learn and want to read a book. I'm not saying all don't do it, but, you know, those, you need to be pushing yourself to be better. Pick up a book and read, learn about money, go back to school. Get with some different individuals and start learning how to better yourself in a sense where, you know, learn about your history, learning how to, you know, your mental health, you know, go get, you know, if you need help, go get help. Just do something to better yourself. Education. Education is so important, especially for African Americans and those who are white, those who care. Positively push blacks into the direction to get educated, learn with them. I was listening to a leadership call yesterday, and one of the things that was said is that how, you know what I'm saying, one of the individuals spoke and said, hey, you know, as whites, you know, those who care about blacks and minorities, you know what I'm saying, you want to hear them, you want to get to know them, you want to learn the struggle and be there. So you can, it's a learning process. You can know how to support, because a lot of times you don't know what to do. Some people want to help at the cause, and they don't know how to help because they never experienced this stuff. Because that's the first thing, when you have a black man with a white guy or vice versa, they not understanding. It's a disconnect because they never experienced the stuff that we experience. This is daily. You know what I'm saying? So it's a disconnect, and they may want to help, but they don't know how to help. So how they help? Learning the system, learning what we go through each day, so they can help and use maybe they use their white privilege. So go ahead and say it. Use their white privilege to go out there and help African Americans that are dealing with this. Help us educate, you know, those who need help. Listen to the calls and go out there and if you want to support, help us, stay with us with the struggle and help us learn. Not saying you spoon feed and hold. I don't want people to get it twisted. People saying, oh, why I got to help you? In a way, you know, you encourage. You know what I'm saying? And there's some people that are already on it. You don't have to tell them to go out there and learn, get better, and be better. But if you see those who are actually trying to progress, who want to be better and want to make a change, them the ones that you stick to and you support and you help. You know what I'm saying? I have, I'm a prime example. I'm out here doing things to make change. I'm going to post pictures of the stuff we did at the protest. We got the Million Man March coming up in August. We got different things that I'm doing out here, and I'm having people help me push the agenda. Because I want to read, I'm studying, getting knowledge. So this is what I think another caveat for us African Americans is to start picking up a book, start going back to school, STEM programs. I mean, the science and teach math, get into advocacy, get into art, get into all types of realms. Let's expand our knowledge, expand our growth, expand how we can be better in the different realms of different fields, so we can expand, we can grow, and we can come up with we can increase our socioeconomic status. Because when we was free from the slaves, we didn't have opportunities. We didn't have a chance to go get money and go invest into IULs or life insurance or invest in whatever. We had to take what we had and go and try to live in a low income neighborhood. And we were stuck there because our mindsets, we weren't given a chance. Now we have chances to do it. We have opportunities. Things are open for us to go out here and do. And you have examples set before you to go do it. You just got to want to do it. So, That's all I got. I don't have anything else. I just really want people to understand the qualified immunity. It's in the courts. It's being challenged right now by the House and the Senate. Voting, again, is a part of it. Again, get your votes in. Votes are coming up, if you know, especially for your, not just for the president, not just for vice president, but for Congress, there's votes. Senate, House, there's votes. You can vote your people in. You got your city council, you have your sheriffs, you have all levels, local, state, and federal, that you have to vote for. Governors, you have to vote for. You know what I'm saying? Get your research and vote for the right persons that fit you. Whatever belief system, whatever it is, make your vote count. If you voting for the president, and look at your candidates and make your votes. Same for Congress. Look at your candidates. Look at what they're doing. Right now they're the critical piece. They're the legislative branch. They're the critical pieces that are passing these laws. They're the ones that's working on the reforms. They're the ones that's working on change. This is where it doesn't change through law enforcement. The only thing law enforcement can do is enforce what is already there. Change comes from Congress. Change comes from state government, city council, the state Congress. You have the state, local, and federal governors. That's where change comes from, because you have your state powers and you have your federal. The two don't talk to each other that well. So whatever federal's doing, state can do something totally different. So that's why you need to vote for your state and your local and your city council, sheriffs, whatever of your district, because there's so many different ways. Townships, vote and get your people in that you need to be in. Because if you don't have a voice, you don't vote, nothing can change. That's part of it. That's not all of it, but that's part of it. That's part of the deal is voting. So please, get involved. We have protest peacefully. Looting, rioting is not going to help anything. Protest peacefully, get your voice heard, get involved, support businesses, support those who, support those that are for the cause. Just be safe and continue to push the agenda. I'm going to have some different topics coming up soon. Like I said, on the page itself, I'm going to have a lot of different things, businesses posted on there. Please support them. I'm selling merchandise for those who want it. Leave a comment below. I'll definitely get your shirt. The colors, it don't matter. Designs. I'm going to be partnering with other different businesses and organizations, and we're going to create more shirts and just push the agenda. So it's going to be a lot of stuff, a lot of changes coming down the pipeline. So please share, pass the video on to others. Continue to watch the previous videos and podcasts. If you got any requests, things you want to talk about, if you got any requests, any questions, please don't feel free to ask. All right. Please be safe, be blessed, enjoy and happy Father's Day to all the fathers. All the fathers, happy Father's Day in advance. And please take the time to honor your fathers. Honor our most high God. He's our heavenly Father. Honor him, but honor all your fathers or grandfathers, anybody that's a father, and just show them appreciation this weekend, because it's a lot to do. It's a lot going on for us men, and we can have the appreciation of our lives. So be blessed. Thank you. To build a business, learning how to your mental health. Go your votes in. Votes are coming up. If you